So we've talked a lot about getting in good positions right now to be the most efficient movement pattern when we're doing our training. So the next concept in strength is going to be creating tension throughout your body. And one thing in particular that we're going to talk about is engaging your core. So before we get into that, a lot of times what we do with people just to kind of demonstrate your ability to create tension and strength is I have them grab my hand and squeeze my hand as hard as possible. You can kind of do this like on your own right now. Is just make a fist in the hand as hard as you can. And then what I usually do is I say, this is like, let's use this as a measure of your grip strength, right? Then what I do next is I cue them into position. So I'll have them grab my hand again to squeeze as tight as I can. Now I cue them to make a fist in that opposite side hand. Make a muscle in that arm as hard as they can. Start flexing the chest. And what happens is they start unknowingly squeezing that palm, like that fist, tighter and tighter and tighter. We start cueing the abs to brace. We start cueing the glutes to engage. They're gripping their toes into the ground, and that grip gets tighter and tighter and tighter. And what happens is they start sweating, and then they stop, and they're exhausted, right? So we just made them stronger without putting any muscle on their body right there. It's just about cueing. So think of strength as a skill. We're trying to teach you, A, to get in good movement patterns and efficient movement patterns. And number two, we're trying to get you to create a lot of tension through cueing and getting you to practice engaging every muscle in your body when you're doing a movement. It is exhausting, it's crazy inefficient, and that's the reason why when we're doing these big strength lifts, we only need 1 to 10 reps max at a time. We don't need to be doing a ton of these things because we don't want you to be really efficient in the strength movements. We want you to create a ton of tension throughout your body. We want you to be tired. We want every muscle in your body firing as a unit. So one way we teach people how to engage their core and protect their lumbar spine and the low back is we grab a band. So this is just like either a green band or a red band, resistance band. We tie it around the waist, so nice and high around the waist. We want to go down the low back. We want to get right around like the midsection of the abs, and we want to pull this thing nice and tight so it creates a lot of pressure inwards on the abdomen right here. So what we're going to do is rather than most people kind of breathe up through their chest, we want you to take a breath, send all that air, bypass the chest, and go right down into this diaphragm area out here. And we want you to expand your abs out against this band. Think of it as like a belt, and you have to pressurize against that belt. So relax. We're going to relax these abs. Big breath in. Send it all down here. Press out against that belt and create a whole bunch of pressure through that abdomen and back in. So you can see how this belt or this band expands as my abs contract against it. So we're not trying to push the belly out like this. We're trying to brace those abs out, creating a shield almost around your entire body, not just the front, but also the sides. We want those obliques to engage. We want tension out against that lumbar as well. And that'll help you when we end up getting into that squat position. We can take a big breath, brace outwards against that band, and we'll squat down, and we can keep that pressure around that low back and keep you in a much safer position. Same thing when we're in a deadlift. Big air, brace, reaching back, keeping pressure through here allows us to use these glute muscles to fire through. And we're also going to be using it when we do things like overhead press, because we're going to have you lever at the hip, but I want to make sure that when we're doing our overhead press, a lot of times what people do is they arch back and use their lumbar to press off. We want to pressurize this abdomen area again, squeeze the butt nice and tight before we press up on the overhead press. So again, give this a little practice at home. You can do this whenever you're doing your squatting and deadlift pattern, just to give you a stimulus against your abs so you can pressurize out and keep that spine in a much safer position.